BC News Radio.
New Orleans sports talk about your favorite teams. Sports 1280.
34 minutes and no Drew Brees contract, but some interesting news. Mentioned at the other side of the break how Ian Rappaport from NFL Network reporting about the interest between the Saints and Jimmy Graham. Diana Rossini, who's been on the show before from ESPN, says the Saints are interested in getting cornerback Malcom Butler. Did anyone ever mention that on this show before? I think that's the first time I've ever said that.
Somebody would be happy if that were to materialize.
Also, they're interested reportedly in Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie. And who is this? Mike Garafolo reporting that the Saints are interested in chatting up with Austin Seferian Jenkins. So some tight ends, some corners, all needs, all players that at least positions that I mentioned in my free agent wish list that I figured they would certainly revisit the Malcom Butler thing. I think we've only said that one time each day over the last 2 months. We assumed that would happen. And I'm curious to see the price tag on him, though. I saw the Spot Track has some market value app that they have, and they put his market value at $13 million a year on average for Malcom Butler. That's pretty hefty for Malcom.
That's a little steep. I'm not surprised they have interest in Malcom Butler. I am surprised at Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie. I'm not sure what that just seems like a weird fit to me. He's a 10-year veteran. He's got the size now to play in that scheme that Dennis Allen runs, but maybe they just want to add a little more veteran experience to the secondary group like they did with Kirk Coleman, because they do have a bunch of young guys there.
No doubt about it. And you're assuming that Kenny Vaccaro's going to walk, so you're leaving a veteran off that roster as well. And yeah, because look who you got back there at corner and at safety. Outside of Kirk Coleman, you have Lattimore, who's played a year, Crawley, who's played a year, essentially. And then at safety, you got Von Bell, who's played 2 years. You've got Marcus Williams, who's played a year. So now if you bring in Butler, that's certainly a veteran guy, but maybe that's with the Cromartie thing. I don't know. Who knows? I think they're just going to be looking around because Cromartie's price tag is certainly going to be lower than Malcom Butler. So they're probably just mixing and matching and just seeing what they can get done out there.
And I will say this, and look, we've talked about it for a while now, but the fact that Ian Rappaport is reporting this strong mutual interest for Jimmy Graham, trust me, where there's smoke, there's fire on that. One of Ian's best sources is Jimmy Sexton, who is Jimmy Graham's agent. You can take that to the bank. That's coming straight from Sexton, which means that deal's going to get done. I think Jimmy Graham's going to be back here. I'll be shocked after seeing that report if he's not with the Saints.
I just think it makes too much sense. I mean, I wrote it last week when when our own Josh Katzenstein and I know Tom Pelissero from NFL Network both reported that the interest would be mutual and that they would entertain a reunion. And I think it makes too much sense for the Saints and Jimmy Graham not to do this. Like, if they don't do it, I'd be more surprised than if it happens at this rate.
Yeah, I think it's a great fit. Now, that leads me to think Kobe Fleener's time here is done.
I would think so.
I would think they would designate him a June 1 cut, and he would not be on this roster. I could be wrong, but that you don't. I don't know how you can afford to pay all that, and it makes you wonder why they would have eaten that. Would they eat $3.7 million?
I don't know why they decided to eat that when the part of that contract went guaranteed. I don't know. Well, because
did they not know Graham was going to be available? Were they wondering if he was going to stay in Seattle? Maybe, I don't know. I think they would have had their feelers out on that.
The only thing is that maybe they didn't think a tight end would be, at least a tight end they thought would be viable for them, and they were just going to hang on to it as insurance. Because just remember, the last time they were in the market for a tight end, they were trying to get Ben Watson back, and then the Ravens jumped the offer, and then there's no doubt in my mind that the Saints panicked and went out and overpaid for Kobe Fleener. I mean, they just went out. because they didn't have a lot of money to play with at that point, and they spent their most dollars on Fleener, and that was a total panic move. This would not be a panic move, but that move was a total panic.
And I think you could say unequivocally that the Saints would have won this trade probably. I mean, it's hard to say unequivocally. That's probably not the right word, but the fact that they still have Max Unger on the roster, they're going to get Jimmy Graham back. They got the first-round draft pick, which they didn't pan out with Stephane Anthony, but I would think the Saints ended up winning this in the long run. I'm not sure what Seattle got out of Jimmy Graham. They got 10 touchdowns this past year.
He went to 2 Pro Bowls, but it's not like he became this threatening, big-time threat for the Seahawks. And look, I don't know if I would say that the Saints unequivocally won the trade, but if you get him back, it certainly helps.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about getting him back. I mean, so far I think it's been a pretty even trade, but if the Saints would have cashed in on that first-round draft pick, it would have been a lot better for their cause. I mean, they really whiffed on Stephane Anthony, and that was back in the Rob Ryan days, if I'm not mistaken. They had a lot of whiffs, scheme-wise,
player-wise.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. They didn't right the ship until 2016's draft. And I'm wondering, look, we've brought up some of these names, and people want the Saints. I think some fans out there would like them to get in the market for like a linebacker. And I don't know if the Saints are going to be in the market for getting or paying significant dollars for a linebacker when they already did it last offseason with A.J. Klein. So,
who do fans want?
They just want an upgrade. They feel like
Ricky Jackson. I mean, what do they want?
Well, I know the big name at the linebacker is the guy from Philadelphia, Nigel Bradham, but he's really the only big-time linebacker that's probably going to get big-time money because he played so well last couple of years for Philadelphia.
Yeah, they don't need Nigel Bradham.
I just know you. I was just basically trying to get your reaction since you essentially think linebackers you don't even need them.
Yeah, I think it's an overrated position. Everybody's in 5 and 6 DB sets. You hardly ever have a every down linebacker anymore. They've been marginalized in this league unless you get a guy like a Deion Jones or somebody like that, Luke Kuechly, that's on the field for 3 downs. Then they're worth the investment. Otherwise, to me, they're like a role player. Look how many snaps. Go back and look how many snaps some of the Saints linebackers play. They play less than the nickelback by far. In their defense.
Yes, absolutely. That's why someone like Aaron Colvin is going to be more valuable because the nickel corner plays so much. And will the Saints look at him? I don't know. Do I think it would be a good idea? Yes. But it already sounds like they're looking at Malcom Butler, which, again, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Do you read anything into the fact that there's reports out now that they have interest in Malcom Butler, perhaps Antonio Rodgers-Cromartie? Do you read anything into that with Delvin Breaux's situation?
Absolutely, yes. I think that they're going to let him walk. I really do. The relationship to me would be difficult to fix. It felt like that the Saints were already ready to be done with him anyway. Before, if you're willing to trade the guy and you're not happy with him, I think they were frustrated. And if I am Delvin Breaux, I'm looking for a clean start somewhere else because I think
even though he's from New Orleans.
Yeah, I
got a young family here.
Well, I mean, I understand that, but you got to pay your bills, and if you want to go to a team that will appreciate you more, because I feel like the Saints' appreciation for him has dipped. I mean, you don't leak that you're going to trade him, and then you got to come back and not trade him because you totally screwed up. If I'm Delvin Breaux, I'd be like, get me the hell out of here. I just think he'd do himself a favor by getting a fresh start somewhere.
You don't think it's repairable?
I don't think so, but I didn't think the Jimmy Graham thing was repairable either, and it certainly seems like they're in the direction. Maybe time heals wounds. Not enough time for Delvin Breaux and the Saints maybe to heal their wounds.
Speaking of wounds and healing, Drew Brees still unsigned. How's the poll going, Clyde? I know early on.
I'm glad you asked.
We put out a Twitter poll, in case you haven't seen it, on our Dunc Holder Twitter account, asking how you are dealing with the fact that Drew Brees now can negotiate with other teams. Are you full-scale Larry Holder panic mode, or are you relaxed and just chilling out? There's 4 different options. I'm curious to know what the results are.
Well, Jeff, I purposely made the poll to the end of the show, so we have about 12 minutes left if you want to go vote, at Dunc Holder on Twitter. So right now, currently leading the way, it's still very tight, but right now, the 31% in the lead is, it's only Monday, but right behind is at 27%, how many days are left, as opposed to 20% for relaxed, I have a life, and 22% for doomsday sheltering.
By the way, 44 minutes and there's no Drew Brees contract, as Dave just appropriately let us know.
Yeah, you got time to go vote with this ticking
clock
in the background and go, stock up your doomsday shelter.
Yes, definitely. I mean, just imagine if the Saints let Drew walk, then they let Chase Daniel walk because he's a free agent, and then it's Taysom time. Would this town be ready for Taysom time?
This town would partially burn.
He'd be riding Mardi Gras parades. He'd be King Rex. Taysom would be the king of Mardi Gras.
No, he would not. He wouldn't even be the king of the truck parades.
Oh, God. What, you hating on the truck parades,
Yeah,
man?
why do you do the truck parades? The truck parade's pretty good this year.
I mean, Rex has some prestige, and the truck parades
Some, yes.
don't have as much prestige. What do you want me to tell you? It's just a fact of life.
I disagree with that.
You disagree with that?
I disagree with that notion. All parades are Mardi Gras are moderately equal.
They're all created equal.
They're all good because it gives us a chance to revel for many, many days.
I don't know about that because I think only the mayor meets with King Zulu and King Rex and has a big,
Actually, it's just King Zulu and Rex. Rex is king of Carnival. You don't have to say King Zulu.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have my Mardi Gras.
Oh, well, here's an interesting tidbit since we were talking about Austin Stephane Jenkins. Report from KJR Radio up in Seattle saying that Austin Stephane Jenkins is in Seattle right now, and to not be surprised if a deal gets done with the Seahawks. So
I think he's a UW grad.
I think you're correct. Yes,
Yeah,
and
makes
so
sense.
I think they're planning on Jimmy heading out of Dodge, and curious to see if he ends up here.
It sounds like the tea leaves are the stars are aligned for a reunion. Will they have a press conference, you think, if they signed Jimmy Graham? Is that
You'd imagine so.
You would think, but
and then there would be
it's
all
been
the
a long
people.
time since they've had a press conference for a free agent acquisition. I can't tell you the last time they actually did one.
Yeah, they're not big on those.
No, or like the draft day ones. They don't do those.
Maybe
either.
a conference call.
Well, they always get to play. We typically, the last couple of years, have been able to get access to talk with the player. Well, I remember the conference call with Jairus Byrd, and he essentially sounded like he had no idea what was going on the Saints roster. He didn't know anything about Rob Ryan or the defense they played. It seemed pretty obvious that the Saints just paid the price that they were looking for, and he just said, "That's where I'm going."
That's what it sounded like to me. He was a money grab, right? He just took the highest
what
bidder.
It seemed like to me, yes.
And moved on. And look, I'm curious if they re-signed Jimmy Graham. Well, maybe the Pelicans bring him out there and put him out power forward as a role player off the bench.
It would help the cap, the Saints cap. You think he can do that?
Oh, yeah, it would be like getting money from both sides.
I would always argue, why don't they put Drew Brees' contract on the Pelicans? Just use it as a money laundering scam. Just
I'm sure that'd go over real well.
Shell game.
I'm sure it would. You could do that, right?
Don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think that's legal.
No.
All right, let's take our final break right here on the show. And as the free agent news comes,
As the world turns.
or doesn't come,
like sands through the hourglass.
like 47 minutes, now 48 minutes, and there's no Drew Brees contract.
As I get Larry and Jeff's thoughts on Ladarius Webb, because this is an all-Nichols-related show. You haven't seen him put the pieces together.
Oh, well, look at you. Bringing it all together here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc Holder.